Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. In today's video, we will be talking about those pigments that tend to dominate our succulent world. Now, because of these pigments, that's the reason why the succulents are so popular, and you and me love succulents because of these pigments. Now, of course, there are many more types of pigments, but over here, we will be only talking about 3 types of pigments that tend to dominate the succulent world. Now, the first pigment that we're going to be talking about is chlorophyll, followed with carotenoid and then anthocyanin. So here, as you can see, these succulents have a lot of chlorophyll. Majority of these succulents are green in color. Like this one is my compactum. It tends to turn a little darker on the tips, but overall the succulent tends to remain green in color. Whereas our Haworthias are always green in color. This Crassula muscosa is also green in color. They have a lot of chlorophyll. Now, I have already spoken about this earlier. Whenever the succulent is green in color, it should not be exposed to direct sunlight, otherwise they will get damaged. The reason is because they do not have the yellow coloring or the red coloring that can protect it from direct sunlight. So if you are going to put them in direct sunlight, either the leaves will get burnt or the succulent will start turning brown in color, because they cannot protect their leaves, because the carotenoid or the anthocyanins are missing in these succulents. So that's why you should never expose these succulents to direct sunlight. Like all of the varieties of Haworthias, like over here I have 2 varieties of Haworthias. I have the Crassula muscosa. They are green in color. They do not change the color. So if you're going to expose these succulents to direct sunlight, then they will not do quite well. So we need to understand that these succulents that do not change color must never be exposed to direct sunlight. Whereas you can see over here, these succulents are green in color, but when I'm going to expose them to direct sunlight, they will start changing the color in order to protect themselves from the direct sunlight. In order to protect it from those UV rays, it will start getting colored, but these will not change the color. They are going to stay as it is. Even over here, as you can see, this one as well, if I'm going to expose them to direct sunlight, they will start changing their color. You can see they are very stretched right now because of lack of light, because of lack of sunlight. It has been draining. You can see my pink rosa has completely changed its color. It's become very pale because of lack of light. But once after I expose it to light, after acclimating it, if I'm going to put it in direct sunlight, it will again turn pink. Whereas this, whether I keep it in indirect bright light or in direct light, they will not change the color. They're still going to remain green. So this is the first pigment that we were talking about, and that was chlorophyll. So now this is the second pigment, which is called the carotenoid. Now the carotenoid pigment, as we have already spoken, it is more on the shades of yellow, orange and red as well. Now over here, as you can see, these are this is my sedum golden glow, this is my sedum adolphi, this is my Aguides variety. You can see that red color. Now this is the part of the carotenoid. Now even if this plant is in its growing season or if it's in its dormant season, the red color will still be maintained, because as we have spoken, over the period of time, people want to have a lot of colorful succulents. So there are a lot of hybrids that are being created, keeping in mind that they want to keep that color for a longer period of time, because anthocyanins do not last for a very long. Now the carotenoid over here, as you can see, they are very yellow in color. Now the best part about carotenoid is that it also helps in photosynthesis, just like how the chlorophyll tends to work. But again, the rate of photosynthesis is going to be slightly less as compared to chlorophyll, but it still helps in photosynthesis. That's the reason why carotenoid is like a permanent pigment. Whether the succulent is in its growing period or is in its dormant stage, it will still stay yellow in color. It is not going to turn green. Unless you put it in a very low light condition, then the leaves will start to turn green in color. But when it's exposed to light, or even if you're going to keep it in indirect bright light, the colors on the leaves will still be yellow, because that is the pigment of a carotenoid. So chlorophyll and carotenoid are permanent pigments that will stay on the succulent irrespective whether it is dormant or not. So if you are a person who wants to add a collection or wants to make an arrangement wherein you want the colors to stay permanent, so you can use Sedum Adolphi, or you can use this Aguides. They have this colors that are going to be permanent, which will not disappear based on the growing or the dormant period. So these will stay on the succulent irrespective whether it's dormant or not. It helps in photosynthesis, but very less as compared to a completely green succulent, but it will still help in photosynthesis. A lot of people think that the yellow color will not be permanent, but that's absolutely incorrect. Carotenoid is a pigment that will stay permanent on your succulent. So if you want to make an arrangement, you do not need to be worried. The colors will be retained throughout the year. Now, this was all about chlorophyll and the pigment of carotenoid. Both of them have this really strong color, irrespective whether it is in its growing period or not. Even for that matter, the Haworthia as well, even if it's dormant, even if it's in its growing season, it will still remain green. It will not get stressed, whereas these will get stressed. The more amount of light you give, the more darker the yellow tone will get. But if there is lack of light, then it will turn slightly light green in color, but still it is going to have the traces of the yellow color. Over here you can see this one is very stressed, so you can see that strong yellow color, yellow to orange color. But even when there is lack of light, the succulent will not completely get green in color. There will still be a lot of traces of the yellow color, which is the pigment. So a lot of people tend to ask, will the succulents change color? Now remember guys, this succulent is, I wouldn't say it's a correct term to be used, but it is designated with a particular color, the pigment, as the carotenoid. So it's not going to change into any other color. Like you cannot have a blue color Sedum Adolphi, or you cannot have a blue colored golden glow, or you cannot have a purple golden glow or a purple Adolphi, because that's how this plant is grown. Probably in future, maybe if they tend to create a hybrid, then probably there would be a chance, but I'm not sure if that would work out really well. But these are all the information that I can give you based on these two pigments, that is the chlorophyll pigment and the carotenoid. Both the chlorophyll and carotenoid are permanent colors or permanent pigments on the succulent, irrespective of its growing period or dormant period. Now talking about Anthocyanin pigment, this is one of my favorite pigment because this tends to give a lot of colors to our succulents. They range from red, blue, purple, black, etc. But unfortunately, anthocyanins do not last for a very long time. This pigment will only come on succulents when the succulent tends to get stressed. Basically, when the succulent is dormant, you will be able to see this color much more often. As soon as the succulent starts getting into its growing period, anthocyanins will start to disappear. That's the reason why you might have noticed a lot of succulents, when they are dormant, they are very brightly colored. And once the season is over and when they tend to get into their growing period, the succulents start reverting back to green color. And that's because the anthocyanin pigment starts to minimize or tends to reduce on the succulent, due to which the succulent starts turning green in color. Now, the entire idea of anthocyanin pigment is to protect the succulent from harmful UV rays, especially when it is dormant. So during this phase of time, the succulent completely shuts down, which means that it's not going to grow, which means that it's not going to create that photosynthesis method or the process which it usually tends to do during its growing period. So when the succulent is getting dormant, when it is its resting period, it tends to put on the anthocyanin pigment, wherein it protects it from that harmful UV rays, and which tends to look very beautiful to us. But actually the succulent is protecting itself by putting out these bright colors. All of the strong UV rays will reflect and will not be absorbed by the leaves, because if the succulent did not have the anthocyanin color during dormancy, most probably the succulent might get harmed, might even burn the leaves, and that's the reason why the anthocyanin pigments come into picture. Now, unfortunately, anthocyanin pigment is only meant to protect the succulent. It does not partake or does not take a part in the photosynthesis. The entire pigment is only meant to protect the succulent from harmful UV rays. But yes, underneath that, there would be a little bit of chlorophyll, but that is not going to be very prominent. So that is the reason why you do not see the succulent green in color. because anthocyanin pigment tends to dominate the chlorophyll, due to which the succulents tend to look very colorful to us. But you might have also noticed there are certain succulents like bluebird, there are certain varieties of hybrids that still maintain that color, the red color or the purple color. That's because they are created like that. They are created by cross-pollinating certain succulents to get that color to be lasted for a longer period of time. And that is what a lot of people want succulents, because they are really bright colored, and in order to keep that market going on, a lot of these cultivars, a lot of people who are into creating hybrids, they tend to choose certain type of succulents so that they are able to get that color and help that succulent retain that color. But at the same time, it is not going to harm the succulent if that color tends to remain for a longer period of time. But yes, if the anthocyanin color tends to stay on the succulent for a longer period of time, then that will reduce or that will slow the growth of the succulent, because obviously, because the chlorophyll is in a very limited amount, due to which the succulent cannot make its own food, and it takes a little longer time for them. And that's the reason why the hybrids, they tend to grow slightly slow, because they are not able to grow properly because of that coloration. That's why if anthocyanin is present on your succulent for a very long time, then the growth rate of your succulent is going to be even more slow. That is the reason why anthocyanins are only present on succulents when they are dormant or when the succulent is stressed. When you tend to give less water and more sunlight, the anthocyanins will appear on the succulent, be it in growing period or during the dormant period. So that's the reason why do not stress your succulents during their growing period. So guys, I hope that this video on pigment of succulents was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.